Part 3. Chapter 1. Shadow and Light. The university library is an imposing cupola with 4 sandstone pillars guarding the entrance. The Big Bulb, as it is called by students, features 4 stories of packed memory banks and historical books. Hundreds of students can simultaneously access specific AI to help them with their studies. Aria sits in front of a terminal and is lost in thought, scanning results from different simulations the botany AI ran for her. The hum of the cooling fans lulls Aria's concentration, and she sits upright to focus on the results at hand.
They're not viable,
She mumbles and shakes her head. Graphical presentations of modified bamboo plants show several strangely contorted leaves around brittle stems. All feature a single large brown leaf that casts a shadow on leaves on the opposite side of the stem. A draft of air lets a strand of hair brush along her cheek. Irritated, she catches the hair and twirls it between her fingers. Then she types, "Adjust turgor of the shading leaf. Extend growth zones around the stem. Increase angular movement to 35 degrees. Aria zooms in on one of the predicted plant structures. Energetically, the additional shading leaf is no problem for the bamboo plant, but all projections on epigenetic changes show lethal adaptation. Either the simulations stop developing the shade leaf or they shed the leaf completely. Both would lead to their death under an unforgiving sun.
I need a hint on where to go before I plant them in real life.
She thinks, frustrated at her results. Up to now, Aria's strategy of pinning the problem by excluding the most probable errors was only partly successful. The haystack is still too large to find the needle. Aria stretches her back and finishes the series of commands to start the next cycle of simulations. Then she taps impatiently on the desk and gets up.
It's time to take a break.
She decides and checks her arm clip. Flipping through her schedule, she finds only Raylan's dinner invitation for tonight. Kyron is busy with his essay and Evren has not messaged her since last night.
You good, Len?
She worries about Evren's involvement with the ecos. On the spur of the moment, she types, "Are you up already or still hungover? Stick out tongue. Want to hang out in the cafeteria?" Waiting for an answer, she ambles toward the elevators. Some breaking news seems to have the message boards in uproar. Evren's message pops up. "Yes, waiting at the entrance."
Yeah, that's Ev's hangover talk.
Aria smiles at Evren's short message style, as if typing would be the source of her headaches. On her way down to the exit, Aria spots a stand with camouflage colors and a large W as a logo on the sides of the stand. A crow in a uniform-like suit hands out flyers to students passing by. As Aria walks past the stand, she realizes that this is a recruitment stand for the military. Other students are already in agitated discussion with the uniformed crow.
This is a university campus.
How dare you try to recruit soldiers here?
The flyer will explain it all to you.
A uniformed crow says.
We're not military, we're security for you.
Aria shakes her head at so much ignorance. Louder than necessary, she calls out.
Says the wolf to the sheep.
Laughter and the infuriated gaze of the crow follow her as she leaves the library. Outside, the rain has subsided and only a few puddles remain of its earlier presence. Students stand together in small groups and lean over their arm clip displays. Irritated, Aria checks her own display while she walks toward the cafeteria. The message boards of the university are on fire over the announcement that Winslow Security is taking over parts of the ATC. Government decrees are being put forward to create a legal umbrella. Civil rights attorneys are already probing the legislature with action for an injunction. Aria has only limited interest in politics, but even for her, it seems a drastic measure to build a private army. Passing through the sandstone arch, Aria spots Evren nervously pacing back and forth at the entrance to the cafeteria. Evren walks toward her with a sincere face and hugs her shortly.
Hey, do you have some time?
She says nervously.
We have to talk.
Aria senses Evren's distress and drops her joke about Evren's welcome words.
Yes, I'm free.
She answers worriedly.
Let's talk in the park. It's too crowded here.
Aria motions back to the cafeteria, which is packed with students discussing current events. She starts walking back, but Evren takes her hand and leads her toward the cafeteria.
We need a bit more privacy. More people, more privacy.
Evren quickly explains. her eyes darting back and forth. Arya is not at all convinced of Evren's logic, but then she never spent a thought about evading detection.
Have they finally caught up with you?
Arya searches Evren's face for clues about the severity of their upcoming talk and the premonition that her own future may be involved. They weave through the agitated crowd and head for the gallery, where groups of students loudly discuss the implications of a private army with policing rights. Evren points to the back, where the ceiling of the open gallery swings low toward a window front. The noise subsides as they reach the glass front. Tossing her satchel to the ground, she sits down and crosses her legs. Arya lies down next to her and leans her back against the window. She looks on as the groups of students grow into a gathering with a Len student in the lead, chanting anti-government slogans.
Well, let's talk.
Arya suggests. She surveys the student crowd and silently admires the firm conviction on their faces.
I told you about this cube and what it may contain.
Evren slowly starts to circle the abyss that leads to the final truth and its consequences.
Yeah, that arm clip thingy from the ecos.
Arya recalls their talk last night.
Well, this thingy is a real eye-opener.
Evren snorts at Arya's casual way of looking at the cube.
Time for the first punch.
In this instant, Evren hates herself for being the bearer of sorrow.
It was Ray's arm clip.
Arya slowly rises from her reclined posture and opens her mouth in disbelief.
Ray?
She asks in shock.
This can't be. Why would he? How can he?
Arya gazes at Evren's melancholic smile and finds her own answer. Evren's eyes tell the truth. There is no pretense.
Yes, Ray works with the ecos.
Evren states quietly, relieved to finally share her burden.
Works with? Or for the ecos?
Arya inquires, clinging onto the last shred of hope.
Funny, Jeppy asked the same.
Evren smiles at Arya, but then she continues in a more serious tone.
No, Arya. He not only works with the ecos, he is one of the main cogs, at least in this city.
How do you know all this?
Arya believes her triple partner, but she needs evidence to really find closure.
We found surveillance files on the cube.
Evren replies.
Lots of them. I'll show you the files later.
Evren leans forward.
They're sensitive. Very sensitive.
She adds, motioning with her eyes over to the crowd. Leaning back, she exhales deeply to brace herself before her final revelation. With determination, she locks eyes with Arya.
There's more.
More?
Arya is not prepared to absorb the worst-case scenario.
Did he kill someone?
She asks, imagining the worst-case scenario in her world.
No, it's different.
Evren breaks her gaze and stares at her clasped hand. Before getting second thoughts, she quickly blurts out the final truths.
His father uses Ray as a mole to infiltrate the ecos. Ray is unaware of this.
She glances back at Arya as she details the consequences.
They probably know everything about the ecos, including me.
Strangely, the final truth is not so hard to word anymore. Arya is in shock. She tries to read Evren's oddly peaceful face as she lets the gravity of Evren's words sink in. Her mental image of Raylan cracks into a network of fissures racing over his features. In her imagination, small shards of glass float away from his face, revealing a void behind. All their fights, all his cold responses, all her misunderstanding. Nothing was real.
Why didn't you tell me?
Arya's anger at Raylan's stubbornness flares up. She abruptly gets up and folds her arms over her chest. Her pumping fists move her chest muscle up and down as she addresses Evren.
Did he tell you anything about it?
No, but I know what you think.
Evren gets up and takes Arya's hands, uncrossing her arms.
Raylan chose his way, Arya.
Evren tells her.
I know it's hard, but you must accept that.
She pauses, and her voice breaks as she feels her own pain.
It's just so pointless.
The idea that Raylan destroys what he believes in is devastating to her. Arya senses Evren's plight and firmly embraces her triple partner. She rests her head on Evren's shoulder and sighs.
This changes everything.
She mutters, wary of her own part in all of this. She closes her eyes and gently rocks Evren in their embrace. Still shocked by Raylan's terrorist past, Evren's immediate future feels even more uncertain to Arya.
What will you do?
She quietly asks.
I honestly don't know, but
Evren's hands gently lift Arya's face to fix her eyes, caressing her cheeks.
Ray has to know and I can't do it alone.
Evren's eyes silently plead for help. Arya takes Evren's fingers and kisses them.
I know.
She responds.
I couldn't do it alone.
She warily smiles at Evren. Then she lets go of Evren's hands and puts her hands on her hips.
It'll be a hell of a dinner tonight.
She grunts resolutely.
The dinner!
Evren forgot about their invitation. Her eyes flit nervously over Arya's face.
But that's perfect. They'll all be there. Ray, Terran, Siren. That's the core of the ecos in the city.
Evren feels another burden roll off her heavy mind.
What about Chiron?
Arya asks warily.
He won't understand.
She is anxious to keep the innocent Chiron out of the game.
No, Arya.
Evren vehemently disagrees.
He's part of our life, and we can't do to Chiron what Ray did to us.
Arya feels the wrongness of her protective thoughts and nods in approval of Evren's decision. Another rally of students crosses the cafeteria on their way to the city, armed with banners and quickly painted signs. Their chanting echoes up to the gallery. Stand up. Fight back against the Winslow Pact. And ho ho ho. Winslow's army's got to go.
Let's get out of here.
Evren motions at the rally.
You won't get peace around here today. If you don't mind, we could get some takeaway and visit Pico and Jeppy.
Right now, Evren needs Arya's presence as a steadfast anchor amidst the swirl of uncertainty. In her eyes, Arya is untouched by the possible horrors of this world, a pure beacon for all that is good in life.
Sounds good.
Arya says.
Then you can tell me more how all this ties together.
Arya still needs to see for herself, like saying a final goodbye at the grave of a good friend.
I'll call a cab.
Evren says and taps her arm-clip display.
You won the lottery?
Arya is stunned that Evren would consider an expensive cab ride.
Well, cracking a chip with dangerous content has its perks.
Evren mentions casually and winks at Arya.
You stole it.
Arya states flatly.
And I don't feel pity.
Evren counters.
Those Winslow pigs deserve it.
She starts walking toward the exit. Snickering to herself, she adds,
And that specific pig won't even notice. I just tripled his escort service expenses.
She grins at Arya.
Despicable.
Arya shakes her head in playful disgust as she follows Evren.
That's me, a despicable loser.
Evren shrugs her shoulders and trots on.
Nope, sorry, but you're wrong. I never fall in love with despicable losers.
Arya sticks out her tongue at Evren as she links her arm with hers. That's ally number one, but what about the others?
I don't know. We'll see at the dinner tonight.